Nathan made his way through the crowd of people trying to register for the nobility and spiritual fighting examinations. He was anxious to speak to his father about his decision to challenge House Raven, but as he approached, he realized that 2 others had joined Ulrich, Amelia, and the Grahams. Carlton Crane and his son John sneered as Nathan rejoined his family at the rear of the hall. Before they could get a word in, Nathan turned to Ulrich and nodded his head.
"Father, I have signed up for the spiritual fighting exam, as well as the nobility exam for our family."
"Nathan Hayfield, I'm glad to see you're still alive. It might be best if you gave up on that spiritual warrior exam right now. You see, only real swordsmen like me have a chance at placing high in it." John Crane cackled as he got up in Nathan's face. Before Nathan could respond, Amelia shoved John out of Nathan's personal space. John tripped and nearly fell to the floor. Nathan couldn't help but smile as his sister defended him.
"You idiot! Get out of his face! You have no idea how strong my brother is. He'll wipe the floor with you on that exam."
Amelia rushed to slap John as he tried to stand up, but Nathan grabbed his sister's hand before she could land a strike.
"Amelia, relax. It's okay."
Reluctantly, she lowered her palm. Nathan turned to John and offered out his hand to him. John scowled and ignored the helping hand. Nathan shook his head.
"Why bother arguing here, John? Why not let our grades on the examination do the talking? And if you're still as strong as you say you are, we can settle things between our houses in the aristocracy exam. You are challenging us after all, aren't you?"
"Why, you cocky son of a—"
Carlton Crane cut off his son by grabbing his arm and pulling him away from Nathan.
Enough of this nonsense. You're embarrassing me in public."
In truth, Carlton Crane knew that open combat between his family and the Hayfields would only end in disaster. With the support of the High Lord Raven, Carlton could take them down in the aristocracy examination without an issue. But right now, when the Cranes would have to fight on their own, they could not risk losing a public skirmish. Sure, it was a well-known rule that noble challenges could be fought only between blood relatives of a family's house. There were plenty of loopholes around this issue. Normally, this rule was in place in order to avoid the risk of a wealthy family buying strength from a bunch of sellswords. But the High Lord Raven had thought of a workaround to support the Crane family. By claiming that some of House Raven's strongest warriors had distant lineage relations with House Crane, the High Lord Raven could send his men into the aristocracy exam to support Carlton against the Hayfields. At least, that was the plan. This was yet another reason why Carlton wished to avoid conflict here. Instead, he simply scoffed at the Hayfields and the Grahams.
"We wished to inform you of our intentions to challenge your family during the aristocracy exam. However, it's not too late to surrender the seat peacefully and accept me as your future lord. I promise I'll be merciful and do my best to protect you from House Clay and House Raven." Nathan chuckled audibly. "Father, sister, let us take leave of this place. There is nothing left for us to stay here." Baylor and Podrick waved goodbye to their friends as the Clay family stewed in anger. Podrick's voice cut through the throng of people lining up in the meeting hall. "Go and be well, my friends, and Nathan, best of luck to you on your examination." Ulrich smiled and boomed back to his friend from across the hall. "And to you as well, Podrick. Good luck to Baylor." Carlton's face shook with rage. He called out across the hall towards the Hayfields as they left.
"Mark my words, Ulrich. You're making a mistake. Enjoy your title while you have it, for in a few days' time my family shall sit in your seat. Do you hear me? Your days are numbered, Ulrich Hayfield."
As they left the room, Nathan shared a chuckle with his family.
"I was wondering how long it would take for him to scream at us again, Father, and at such a high volume. Boy, he'd have a much better career as a bard than as a lord of the realm.
Amelia giggled at his joke as Ulrich's eyes began to water.
Really, Nathan, you jest well, but we ought not to underestimate them. Don't worry, Father. I've estimated them quite accurately.
Podrick smiled as he finished waving and looked down at his son. Then, suddenly, the Grahams became aware of the fact that they were still standing next to the cranes. Podrick whispered to Baylor as he ushered him away.
Come, Baylor. We'd best leave as well before the volcano mouth erupts once more.
Carlton Crane's head whipped around towards the Grahams. Veins bulged in his neck as he screamed,
I heard that! You impudent knave!
Carlton's voice was so obnoxiously loud that even his son, John Crane, stuck his fingers in his ears. After registration day was over, Nathan continued to train in his hotel room as he waited for a few more days to pass before the spiritual fighting examination. He focused on improving his Asura eye technique and got into the habit of running the perimeter of the city twice each day. Without his great metal training bars, he did not wish to break anything, so he shadow-fenced for several hours each day, channeling the power of Asura into his body and imagining a sword in his grasp, pictured the High Lord Raven's face every time he struck his final blow. During this time, he also searched in vain for clues about his mother's murder. Ulrich also did this, but with little success. They had even petitioned for an audience with the Duke to discuss the matter, though Duke Godrickson himself was notoriously difficult to contact. Despite being nobility themselves, it would likely take several months before they would be able to receive an audience. Time passed quickly until the day of the spiritual fighting examination arrived. Due to the two great examinations happening about the same time, the Kingdom of Calandria deemed it best to hold the smaller exam for the student warriors first, and then hold the nobility examination a few weeks later. Nathan marveled at the sea of people all around him in Godrickshall Square, the largest gathering place in the city, where the spiritual fighting examinations took place. Every 5 years, hundreds of competitors and thousands of people who wished to watch the show packed the place. Nathan made his way through the plaza and nonchalantly took his place in line among the other students. Hardly anyone around him looked up from their own nervous preparations. Despite Nathan's duel with Jason, few spiritual warrior students thought that Nathan was particularly strong. If anything, they figured he won merely because of the element of surprise. Nathan had no real urge to tell them otherwise, since he knew this first examination meant very little. Had Nathan been a normal 14-year-old youth, this event might have meant the world to him. But Nathan was far from normal. With the soul of an experienced fighter in a youth's body, Nathan knew this was going to be easy. As a low-level master stage warrior, this examination was going to be a piece of cake. On a stage in the center of the plaza, the master of ceremonies explained the rules of the competition to the audience. Citizens of Godrickshall, are you ready for the examination to begin? Fabulous. Now remember, the exam is broken up into 3 stages. 3 ways to test a student's spiritual fighting capabilities: speed, strength, and combat. For the test of speed, the students must sprint many laps around this field. For strength, they must lift the heaviest stone boulder they can manage for as long as they can. For combat, they must show off their swordsmanship. Nathan ignored the announcements, as he had heard it all before. Instead, he began to stretch and quietly knelt and prayed to the heavens for strength. As he did so, he ignored a few dirty glances from some former classmates from the Academy of the Mystic Blades who stood nearby. Heavens, guide me through this test. Allow me to make my family proud, and let me wield the power of Asura as I need to. As Nathan stood, He walked over to the rear of a cluster of students pushing to stand at the starting line of the first part of the examination, the race. The rules were simple. Students must run 10 laps around the massive plaza's perimeter. After every lap, they were given a ribbon to wear around their neck. Once they had received all 10 ribbons, they could approach the race official and record their results.
Watch out, Hayfield. You might just have to start your race with a broken leg. That wouldn't be fun now, would it? I wonder how many times I'd be able to lap you then.
John Crane chortled as he brushed right up beside Nathan at the starting line. Nathan took a breath and then felt John's elbow press into his side. Before John could react, Nathan swiftly pushed him several inches back. John cursed under his breath as he swatted Nathan's hand away and moved further down the starting line.
How dare you push me? You better watch out during the race.
Nathan smiled. John had no way of knowing that when Nathan pushed him, he had released the Asura weakening aura through his palms and into John Crane's body. This subtle form of spiritual magic could be incredibly powerful, but Nathan's spiritual levels were still low enough that it inflicted only minor damage on John. Still, over the course of the day, it would no doubt sap him of his physical strength, his spiritual energy, and his will to go on. The real reason Nathan smiled was because he knew that the very fact that he could use this technique meant that he had definitely reached a middle rank of the master level. As Nathan settled back into his regular form of breathing, he waited for the race to begin. Across a herd of anxious faces, Nathan's calm demeanor stood out as the officials prepared to shoot the fire arrow announcing the start of the examination. From the corner of his eye, Nathan spotted a welcoming sight. It was Baylor, shivering from nerves. Nathan waved to his friend to catch his attention. Baylor was too far away to speak to, but when he saw Nathan, he immediately calmed down, reassured by his friend's presence. Baylor waved back and then nodded toward the student beside him. Nathan's eyes widened. Standing next to Baylor at the starting line was none other than Stuart Lightstone. Stuart nodded his head respectfully toward Nathan. Nathan grinned and nodded back. Re-inspired by the sight of his allies, Nathan felt confident there would be no trickery or sabotage of his race by House Raven or House Clay. As the official with the bow tried and failed to light the arrow to announce the start, Stuart whispered something in Baylor's ear. Baylor nodded profusely and then rushed down the line of racers toward Nathan.
Baylor, my friend, what is it?
As Baylor reached him, he immediately whispered in Nathan's ear.
A word of caution from Stuart. His father told him that this race is not as simple as it seems. There are unseen obstacles that you must be wary of.
What sort of obstacles? Finally, the official's arrow caught fire, and he shot it high into the sky. As the arrow arched and reached its zenith, it exploded into a massive fireworks display. Before Nathan could get anything more from Baylor, the tide of racers pushed them forward past the starting line. The spiritual warrior examination had begun.